Hello everybody, this is the 54th lecture for us with Mr. Haidar Al-Qasir. Today we are taking Book 15, Jarrah, Test 1, the third passage. It contains two parts. The first part, the California Gold Rush of 1849. The discovery of gold in the Sacramento Valley sparked the gold rush, arguably one of the most significant events to shape American history in the 19th century. The first question says, choose A, B, C, or D. 28. The writer suggests that Marshall's discovery came at a good time for the US because, let's see. On January the 24th, 1848, James Wilson Marshall, a carpenter, found small flakes of gold in the American River near Coloma, California. At the time, Marshall was working to build a water-powered sawmill for businessman John Sutter. As it happens, just days after Marshall's discovery, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo was signed, ending the Mexican-American War and transferring California with its mineral deposits. Okay, let's see the choices. A. The Mexican-American War was ending, so there were men needing work. I didn't find this. B. His expertise in water power would be useful in gold mining. No. C. The population of California had already begun to increase rapidly. Doesn't talk about the population. The region was about to come under the control of the US. Yes. Why? Because it says here in the third line, the last two words, as it happens just days after Marshall's discovery, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo was signed, ending the Mexican-American War and transferring California with its mineral deposits into the ownership of the United States. So D will be for 28. Let's see 29. What was the reaction in 1848 to the news of the discovery of gold? Let's see the choices. A. The press played a large part in convincing the public of the riches available. B. Many men in San Francisco left immediately to check it out for themselves. C. People needed to see physical evidence before they took it seriously. D. Men in other mines in the US were among the first to respond to it. Let's see paragraph B. Though Marshall and Sutter tried to keep news of the discovery quiet, word got out, and by mid-March 1848, at least one newspaper was reporting that large quantities of gold were being found, though the initial reaction in San Francisco was disbelief. Storekeeper Sam Brannan set off a frenzy when he paraded through to displaying a small bottle containing gold from Sutter's Creek. By mid-June, some 3/4 of the male population of San Francisco had left town for the gold mines, and the number of miners in the area reached 4,000 by August. Okay, the answer will be C here. People needed to see physical evidence before they took it seriously. Why? Because in the third line it says, though the initial reaction in San Francisco was disbelief, storekeeper Sam Brannan set off a frenzy when he paraded through town displaying a small bottle containing gold from Sutter's Creek. So, they disbelieved it, they did not believe it until they saw something physical. So the answer will be C. 30. What was the result of thousands of people moving to California. We have A. San Francisco could not cope with the influx of people from around. B. Many miners got more money than they could ever have earned at home. C. Some of those who stayed behind had to take on unexpected roles. D. New towns were established which became good places to live. Okay, let's see. C. As the news spread of the fortunes being made in California, the first migrants to arrive were those from lands accessible by boat, such as Oregon, the Sandwich Islands, now Hawaii, Mexico, Chile, Peru, and even China. Only later would the news reach the East Coast, where press reports were initially skeptical. Throughout 1849, thousands of people around the United States, mostly men, borrowed money, mortgaged their property, or spent their life savings to make the arduous journey to California in pursuit of the kind of wealth they had never dreamed of. They left their families and local areas. In turn, their wives had no option but to shoulder different responsibilities such as running farms or businesses, and many made a real success of them. Okay, the answer will be C. Some of those who stayed behind had to take on unexpected roles. That's why, because in the last four lines, in pursuit of the kind of wealth they had never dreamed of, they left their families and local areas. In turn, their wives had no option but to shoulder different responsibilities. That means they played different roles. They had to do different roles. Okay. 31. What does the writer say about using pans and rockers to find gold? A. Both methods require the additional of mercury. B. A rocker needed more than one miner to operate it. C. Pans were the best system for novice miners to use. D. Miners had to find a way around a design fault in one system. So, pans and rockers, that is in paragraph D. How did all these with miners search for gold? Panning was the oldest way. The basic procedure was to place some gold-bearing materials, such as river gravel, into a shallow pan, add some water, and then carefully swirl the mixture around so the water and light material spilled over the side. So, the answer will be D. Miners had to find a way round a design fault in one system. Why? Because the first line says panning was the oldest way. The basic procedure was to place some gold-bearing materials. That means to find another way. So, in this case, 28 will be D, 29 C, 30 C, and 31 D. Let's move on to questions from 32 to 36. Which section contains the following information? Write the correct letter A to G in boxes 32 to 36 on your answer sheet. 32. A reference to ways of making money in California other than mining for gold. 33. A suggestion that the gold that was found did not often compensate for the hard work undertaken. 34. A mention of an individual who convinced many of the existence of gold in California. 35. Details of the pre-gold rush population of California. 36. A contrast between shrinking revenue and increasing population. So, let us reread A. On January 24, 1848, James Wilson Marshall, a carpenter, found small flakes of gold in the American River near Coloma, California. At the time, Marshall was working to build a water-powered sawmill for businessman John Sutter. As it happens, just days after Marshall's discovery, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo was signed, ending the Mexican-American War and transferring California with its mineral deposits into the ownership of the United States. At the time, the population of the territory consisted of 6,500 Californios, people of Spanish or Mexican descent, 700 foreigners, primarily Americans, and 150,000 Native Americans. So, 35 says details of the pre-gold rush population of California. And here we are having the details, full details of the rush of population of California. Why? Because it says of the time the population of the territory consisted of 6,500 Californians, people of Spanish or Mexican descent, 700 foreigners, primarily Americans, and 150,000 Native Americans. It gives full details of the pre-gold population, rush population of California. Okay, let's see B. Though Marshall and Sutter tried to keep the news of the discovery quiet, word got out, and by mid-March 1848 at least one newspaper was reporting that large quantities of gold were being found. Though the initial reaction in San Francisco was disbelief, storekeeper Sam Brannan set off a frenzy when he paraded through town displaying a small bottle containing gold from Sutter's Creek. Okay. 34 says, a mention of an individual convinced many of the existence of gold in California. And here it says, the reaction in San Francisco was disbelief. Storekeeper Sam Brannan, this is an individual person, set off a frenzy when he paraded through town displaying a small bottle containing gold from Sutter's Creek. So he convinced people of the existence of gold in California. Okay, so 34 will be B. So let us see C now. As the news spread of the fortunes being made in California, the first migrants to arrive were those from lands accessible by boat, such as Oregon, the Sandwich Islands, now Hawaii, Mexico, Chile, Peru, and even China. Only later would the news reach the East Coast, where press reports were initially skeptical. Through 1849, thousands of people around the United States, mostly men, borrowed money, mortgaged their property, or spent their life savings to make the arduous journey to California, in pursuit of the kind of wealth they had never dreamed of. They left their families and local areas. In turn, their wives had no option but to shoulder different responsibilities, such as running farms or businesses, and many made a real success of them. I don't find any answer here, so let's move on. Okay, we have the rest of paragraph C. By the end of the year, the non-native population of California was estimated at 100,000 as compared with 20,000 at the end of 1848 and around 800 in March 1848. To accommodate the needs of the 49ers, as the gold miners were known, town had sprung up all over the region, complete with shops and other businesses seeking to make their own gold rush fortune. Okay, now 32 says reference to ways of making money in California other than mining for gold. And here in this line, which I have just read in the third line, as the gold miners were known, town had sprung up all over the region, complete with shops and other businesses seeking to make their own gold rush fortune. So that's the answer, because those are ways of making money other than mining for gold. Okay, let's see D. It says, how did all these would be miners search for gold? Panning was the oldest way. The basic procedure was to place some gold-bearing materials such as river gravel. Okay, it talks about other ways of making gold. Haven't found any here talking about other ways of making gold. So I just moved to E. Another way was to use what was called a rocker. Isaac Humphrey is said to have introduced it. Also, it talks about other ways of making gold. I don't have any here. Okay, let's see the rest of paragraph E. The rocker had advantages and disadvantages. The advantages were, it talks about the advantages of another way of making gold, and I don't have any of the questions of the information talking about other ways and advantages or disadvantages of making gold. So I just move to F. If I don't find the answers of 33 and 36 in F and G, that means I have to go back to D and E to make sure. Okay, let's see. F. After 1850, the surface gold in California had largely disappeared, even as miners continued to reach the gold fields. Mining had always been difficult and dangerous labor, and striking it rich required good luck as much as skill and hard work. Moreover, the average daily pay for an independent miner had by then dropped sharply from what it had been. Okay, let's go on in 1848. As gold became more and more difficult to reach, the growing industrialization of mining drove more and more miners from independence into wage labor. 33 says, a suggestion that the gold that was found did not often compensate for the hard work undertaken. Yes, it's F. Why? Because if we move to the third line, difficult and dangerous labor, and striking it rich required good luck as much as skill and hard work. Moreover, the average daily pay for an independent miner had by then dropped sharply from what it had been in 1848. As gold became more and more difficult to reach, the growing industrialization of mining drove more and more miners from independence into wage labor. So it's for this reason. Okay. G. Though gold mining continued throughout the 1850s, it had reached its peak by 1858, when gold worth some $81 million was pulled from the ground. After that year, the total take declined gradually, leveling off to around $45 million per year by 1857. Settlement in California continued, however, and by the end of the decade, the state's population was 38,000. 36 says, a contrast between a shrinking revenue and increasing population. Yes, it talks about shrinking the amount of the gold and the revenue, and about increasing in the population. So now the answers will be 32C, 33F, 34B, 35A, and 36G. Now we move to questions from 37 to 40. Basic techniques for extracting gold. It says one word only. That means if you choose two words, the answer will be wrong, even if one of the words is correct. The most basic method used by many miners began with digging some, let's see, out of a river and hoping it might contain gold. So, D says, how did all these would be miners search for gold? Panning was the oldest way. The basic procedure was to place some gold-bearing materials such as river gravel into a shallow pan, add some water. Okay, so digging some gravel. The answer will be gravel. Gravel means small bubbles, tiny bubbles, okay, out of a river. Okay, so the answer here will be gravel. Okay, let's move to 38. Before that, let's go on reading. Small amounts were put in a pan with water. The pan was a small round, causing the liquid and less heavy contents of the pan to come out. Gold dust, which weighed more, remained in the pan, or if the miners were very lucky, there might even be some gap too. It was, however, a very laborious method. Okay, let's see. Swirl the mixture around so the water and light material spilled over the side. If all went well, the heavier gold nuggets or gold dust would settle to the bottom of the pan. Okay, so I've just found the answer because it says gold dust which weighed more, and here it talks about the gold dust here in the passage remained in the pan, or if the miners were very lucky, there might even be some nuggets, because it says heavier gold nuggets or gold dust, and so 38 will be nuggets. Okay, let's move on with the questions. Since I found the answers here, I just moved to the following paragraphs. It says, the rocker was also used. A miner would put some earth and rock into the hot air, and together with some water, he would then shake the rocker. Larger stones stuck in the gap. E. Another way was to use what was called a rocker. Isaac Humphrey is said to have introduced it to the California goldfields. It was simply a rectangular wooden box set at a downward angle and mounted on a rocking mechanism. The dirt and rock was dumped into the top, followed by a bucket of water. The box was rocked by hand to agitate the mixture. The big rocks were caught in a sieve of the top. And here it says larger stones, big rocks, stuck in the sieve. Here the answer will be C. Why? Because it says here the box was rocked by hand to agitate the mixture. The big rocks, larger stones, were caught. That means it's stuck in a sieve of the top. So the answer will be C. Okay, let's go on. While gold dropped to the bottom, unfortunately the rocker was not designed to catch what was called the flour. However, a process was introduced involving gap. Let's see. The waste existed the lower end with the water, and the heavy gold fell to the bottom of the box. The rocker had advantages and disadvantages. The advantages were that it was easily transportable, it did not require a constant source of water, and most important, a miner could process more dirt and rock than with a pan. The primary disadvantage was that the rocker had difficulty in trapping the smallest particles of gold, commonly known as the flour. Some miners added small amounts of mercury to the bottom of the rocker due to its chemical composition. Okay, so it says here a process was introduced involving mercury to ensure no gold was washed out in the water. So the answers will be 37 gravel, 38 nuggets, 39 sieve, and 40 mercury. Now we come to the end of this lecture. Wish that you enjoyed it and liked it. If you liked it, please just press the button of subscribe. If you have any questions, ask them in the comments. If you have any criticism, ask it in the write it in the comments too. Thanks for watching this lecture. That was Mr. Haidar Qasir with you. Thank you.